Hey folks, welcome back to Let's Play Grand Theft Auto 4. I'm the Mysterious JG. I think we may be really sneaking up on the end of the game here. I don't know how much is left. I don't think it's a coincidence that we couldn't call Kate to socialize with her after the events with Darko. Yeah, like I kind of artificially inserted that date between the event with Darko and the event we're about to see next, but I think the game is heading into the end game with this next mission. I was watching a retrospective video on GTA 4, and I guess let's get to this mission marker before I talk about what somebody pointed out and hadn't really occurred to me before, but it's kind of a character thing with Niko that I think is interesting and makes sense here. We don't quite have full ammo. I'm going to hope we can get away with that. But let's see what the next mission for us will hold. There was a taxi cab. If I either didn't get the right button to hail the cab or I was out of range. Okay. I did use the right button. It just turns out I was out of range. That makes sense. So the radio was saying, because you're a loser. And the cabbie's lips were moving. And I thought the cabbie just got up, said, because you're a loser, as soon as we entered the cab, which was kind of an odd thing to say. So anyway, we're here at Honkers. This is the same strip club where we once hung out with Phil Bell. Seriously?
Out of the car, friend. Holy Let's go, come on! Stay down or I will finish you off.
Wow, guy had a lot of money on him. People on this road are just in a hurry. The guy rear-ended because he was in such a hurry. The car, where if he'd been paying any attention at all, he would see a guy had been pulled out of it and beaten to death. We got in. Get in. Get in. Get in. I was going to check and see if he had lost and damned. There's like a different biker gang there, enemy biker gang. I was going to see if either of their logos were on his jacket. So that was it. That was a big character moment. I'll explain in a minute.
Niko, good to see you. And you? How are you?
We're good friends.
Fucking terrible. We got legal problems.
You don't want to ask me about my day?
How things have gone. I've heard some things. Close to your dream, and something holds you back.
He knows that feeling.
No.
Actually, no, he's never been that close to his dream.
I ain't gonna starve. People don't want me around. They don't have to have me. But I know how to earn. I need a favor. Here we go. Fuck you. I looked out for you. And I'll pay good. Real good.
How has he looked out for us?
I need you to collect that H. I got some Russians who have a buyer. Russians? Yeah.
You know I'm not a Russian. Okay.
You got these three. I know. This is real. I need you.
You're the protagonist. You're the only one who can get this done.
Real because it's you? Real because it's my last chance. Then good luck. No. I need you to get that H. I need the money. I looked out for you. You know, people wanted to whack you. I said no.
It's possible.
Now I need you.
I don't really know. That is possible, though. It's the kind of thing he would say if it wasn't true, but...
I got this. No, you listen, you dumb immigrant fuck. I ain't asking you. I'm telling you, do this. Get over your principles. These guys don't hold grudges.
That was an abrupt turn of... He's threatening
Phil
us.
will look after you. You won't even have to deal with the fucking Russians. He's waiting for you down in Tudor. All right. I knew I could count on you.
He threatened us.
Hey, how about that drink?
He did at one point say, I ain't asking, I'm telling, do this. Which I mean, a GTA protagonist, that's like the only thing you can do that's going to set them off. Claude would commit any terrible crime. I guess that's not true. For Claude, you can like threaten him and he'll commit terrible crimes on your behalf until someone else, like whoever he last spoke to, he will do whatever they say. But any of our other protags would do whatever terrible thing you asked them to do if they could A, make fun of you a bit, and B, you didn't treat them with any sense of disrespect. So Jimmy Pecorino, or Perugino, or whatever his name is, yeah, he says, like, this isn't, I'm not asking, I'm telling you, do this, which I thought, first time I played through the game, I thought Niko was going to try to kill him. But then he followed up by saying, get over your principles, these guys don't hold grudges. Which actually is a much better argument for Niko and makes a lot more sense. But we will see where this goes. But yeah, we're moving towards an ending here now for sure. This is kind of the main final plot. And I thought we might be here, and we are. So we will see. This is a save I might need to hold on to. Okay, it just says security. So we got to go see Phil Bell, who we kind of like. Like, he seems like a fairly down-to-earth, well-adjusted, nice gangster guy. But we're going somewhere to see Phil Bell. That's B is for Bernie there. But I think we're about to get a series of plot phone calls here, yes. Or make some.
Roman, I have a problem.
You've got the problem, Niko. I'm about to get married.
Well, is that the problem?
To one woman for the rest of my life.
This is serious, Roman. I have been asked to work for Dmitry Reskolov again. There could be a lot of money in it.
I heard you two had resolved your differences. He's on some boat in East Hook, right?
Well, how do you know
Knew
that?
about this?
Yeah.
He's on a boat in East Hook?
Yeah, I heard you had forgiven him and we're working together. You're doing this deal.
How did you hear about
Now that
this?
I know where Dmitry is. I might just go there and take him out instead. Have you forgotten that he burned down your apartment and business? That he arranged your kidnapping?
Yeah, that wasn't
I have
nice.
a better apartment, and I'll have an even better one if you work with him again. Promise me you won't do anything hasty, cousin.
I have to think about it. Speak to you later.
So that's interesting. Roman seems to already be in the know. Roman has always been the voice of reason and nonviolence. He had some moments where he flipped back and forth and was a little strange in Act 1, but I mean, since he's got his new apartment in this game's version of Manhattan and has settled in with Mallory, he seems like he's pretty content. The one joke I was going to make there was, it's like, you have a problem, I'm about to get married. I was going to quip, and I guess I'm about to quip. He could convince you, cousin, or like she could convince you, cousin, to buy some kind of like weird couples games, like not raunchy couples games. Like, never mind. Like, you know, a card game in which we divvy up household chores. You'll get there eventually. I saw the look on my brother's face when I ordered gifts this year. I wasn't very creative. I went straight off people's Amazon lists, but I saw the look on my brother's face as one of the gifts was opened, and I was like, oh, maybe he'll know what I'm talking about. Or maybe he won't. So let's hop in the car of the person that we recently murdered because they hit us with their car. But I think we've got more plot. Yeah, we're gonna call Kate at 5 in the morning because we know she loves that.
I have a decision to make, but I don't know who to talk to about it.
What's your choice, Niko?
There is a man who betrayed me in the past. I am being asked to work with him. Could be very profitable, but it would mean going back on an oath I swore to myself.
You shouldn't work with him, Niko. You don't need money. What is it going to change about your life?
I don't know. It will make things easier for me and for Roman.
I'm not going to respect you if you compromise what you believe in for money, Niko. Goodbye.
Well, I'll tell you what. The way he phrased that was a thing. The way he phrased that was, it would mean a lot of money, but it would mean compromising a promise I made to myself. Here's the deal now, guys. So we talked to two people who each gave us different advice about what to do. But these two people have very different information on what our choice is. Roman knows the backstory. And we told Roman, now that I know where he is, I'm tempted to go to that boat and kill him myself. And Roman's like, don't do that. No, there's no need to do that. Like, we can move on. We can work with these guys. We don't need that. But the other thing is to do the deal for Pegorino. The issue I've got here is you don't go to Kate with the alternative, hey, I can either work with these Russians who've been my enemies in the past, or I can go murder them. Because the game does not present you with a choice of tell Pegorino you're not willing to work with Raskolov. But also don't go after Raskolov. Just be like, I'm not going to go fight them. I'm just not going to help with doing this deal. That seems like it would be an option that should exist, right? This is the big. The game has two endings, and this is the only decision that actually matters. Like the thing about do you kill Playboy X or Dwayne? The thing about do you kill Darko Breivik or not? Like that, none of that affects the ending. The ending is about to be decided by whether we help Jimmy Pegorino arrange this drug deal with the Russians, or if we decide we're going to go get revenge on the Russians. So to me, it's kind of BS, because if we're following this like character arc of Niko, and we're trying to make Niko like someone who's pursuing a future and trying to make a better life for himself, then we've got the whole, what if you don't kill Darko? Because murdering people isn't what it's about anymore. Maybe you'll try to get out of the crime game. After all, you got this money from this bank heist. Maybe you can work with Roman as part of the cab business, make it legit, stay out of crime. Like, these are all things that you'd be thinking maybe Niko could be considering. Or continuing to work with the Pegorinos. But Kate points out, no, you don't need this money. You'd be betraying your principles, and I wouldn't respect you anymore if you work with the Russians. She doesn't understand the only alternative that presents is you go murder a bunch of people. If you put it to her like that, she would not be gung-ho about the revenge story. But as they present it, the two people that Niko trusts, and that's why I said, I think it's too late for us to do a bunch of dates with Kate. I think that ship sailed. I kept talking about whether we would do that. But no, we now get the full-on, the relationship between her and Niko isn't justified because we've managed to avoid doing any of the optional stuff with Kate. And now we just get to the point in the story where the first person Roman calls with this decision is Roman, which makes sense. But he has to have somebody else to call, so the game makes it Kate McCreary. Like, he should call, like, in this game world, Packy, or Little Jacob, or even fucking Brucey or Dwayne would make more sense for you to call than Kate. Maybe not the girlfriends, because they're all presented as comic relief and not people who seriously understand anything about Niko's life. But like, you'd think there'd be a plot line where Jacob, who helped you fight the Russians, is like, you know, oh, we got some bad blood with the Russians. You can't be trusting them. Because Roman's the one who tells you to work with them. Jacob could be the one who's like, oh, Rasta, I don't trust those guys, and they're messing with the Badman. Like, you know, he could give you some kind of thing where he's like, I think you should work against them. But no, they make it Kate, and they make it this moral choice. Like, you shouldn't do business with the Russians because you're betraying your principles for money, and you don't need money. That's the false choice. The choice Niko's really making is whether or not to set aside his past differences with the Russians or pursue revenge. The money is kind of irrelevant. So Rcokstar, this is probably one of the best written games they've ever done, but for me, it falls apart here a little bit. It's the dilemma is a false dilemma. It's not about going with the money or going for revenge. It's, are Niko's principles that he has to punish these people who wronged him, or are Niko's principles that he's going to get out of this game and try to make a better, more peaceful life? And that's not the choice we're given here. I don't know how exciting that choice that would be for a Grand Theft Auto game, like pursue a plot line in which you don't go around murdering people with, you know, missiles and knife launchers. But that's that's the one that makes sense from a story perspective, and it's not an option being given. Niko has already decided whatever he does with the rest of his life, it's going to be violent and criminal. Anyway, let's go home. I think we can, even though we're right next to the one for deal. Because what I want to do is see what can we still do as far as side stuff. Because this is the final, these missions don't unlock until you've done all the other story missions. Because this is the end of the game. And when you pick one of these two missions, spoiler alert, I guess, the next thing that happens is Roman's wedding. Which is where we really go into the, the culmination of the story. So, I know we don't have any missions to do, but I'm wondering, like, can I go someplace and save the game and have a manual save? Or is that auto-save that we got going to be it? We got a text from Roman. Niko, you came to Liberty for penthouses, women, fast cars. Don't throw it away for revenge. Darko did not help. Remember, do the deal and maybe we can take a private jet down to Vice City. Can I call him and talk to him? I mean, I guess I can call him and go on a date. Well, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's too early to call Kate. And I'm not stalling. I'm just interested. Like, I'm not stalling for, like, certainly not trying to get more videos in the LP. When this series is over, it's time to move on to something else. Whether I jump straight into the DLCs or take a break and play a different game and come back later. But we're getting ready fairly soon. I'm going to show both endings because they're actually a lot more involved than the difference between killing Darko and not killing Darko. I'm not going to make you guys look up the different endings. I'm gonna play through both final mission strings. But also the fact that it's different missions makes a difference too. It's not just different cinematics. It's a whole different mission that you do. But when it gets a little bit... Like, I might try to see if I can call Kate and go on a date. I might see if we can go on a friendship date with Roman. I don't... Because there's a small chance that if we go on a date with Roman, there'll be more dialogue related to the decision. But probably not. There's zero chance that going on a friendship date with Packy or, little Jacob or anybody is going to do anything for this. So let's see... if I can do a manual save. I probably can. Because I need to actually... I definitely need to, like, actually retain it. Something just happened with the phone. The in-game phone, I mean. Okay. So we are allowed to have a save games. We are allowed to make manual save slots. It says make your decision, but it's not, because that text that said that was weirding me out. Niko, imagine the honeymoon. I can take Mallory on if you do this deal. Come on, do it for me. I am your cousin, Roman. Yeah, Roman is hitting you pretty hard about doing the deal. Kate's argument about why you shouldn't do the deal is much weaker and based on no information about what's really going on. Like, I kind of wish... It'll make sense later, I think, but I kind of wish there was something where... I kind of wish there was something a little bit later on where maybe... maybe we... what the hell am I trying to say? I wish we had something where we did a phone call with Jacob. Who's the closest thing you have to a real... Like, we haven't done a lot of friendship dates on screen with Jacob. I feel bad about that in retrospect, because he was one of my favorite characters in the narrative when I played it years ago. But, I feel like all we've done with him is use him for guns in this. But, I do wish we see him or Packy or somebody, we could have a conversation about whether to do this, and they could say, hey, because Jacob would have first-hand experience, but even Packy could be like, once a rat, always a rat. I think if you I think if you do a deal with these guys, they're going to stab you in the back. Right? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen if you do the deal with them. I'm saying somebody could give you an argument based on actual knowledge and not just this vague description you gave Kate. And give you a reason to not want to do this deal that Roman wants you to do. But anyway, both versions of the mission involve you being pretty well tooled up. I'm going to tell you, you need some ammo for what's going to happen with either of these missions. So let's see if we can go on a date with Kate. Nope. It just goes straight to calling her in the voicemail. So we can't date her anymore. We can't date her anymore. So, sorry if anybody had a really strong opinion on why we should do that. I kept messing with the idea and talking about, well, if anyone feels really strongly about it, I'll do it, but I probably won't do it otherwise. But, nope. We can't do it anymore because we've hit the point in the story where we have to make this call. I mean, we could go on a friendship date with Roman. What the hell? Let's go on a friendship date with Roman and see what... I'm just curious to see if anything comes of it. Also, maybe I'm stalling now because we're almost to the end of the video. Drinking will give us 2 different sets of dialogue, so let's try that.
Ladies, this is Roman Bell.
Ah. Okay. Never mind. There's no point in putting it off. All right, so here's the thing. I vaguely remember what the story outcome of both missions is. I'm trying to think through what my logic is for how I want to actually do it. I feel like... if you try to do the deal, that's what Roman wants you to do. I think that's what makes more sense to do. It's not that Niko's motivated, particularly in this playthrough where we really haven't developed a relationship with Kate. It's not like he's motivated by the threat that Kate will not respect him and won't want anything to do with him if he does this deal. It's more like if he goes and gets revenge on these Russians, everything we built up with you know, they turn Darko over to him, and he doesn't kill him because he knows it won't bring back his dead friends. It won't make things any better. Cycle of vicious violence isn't going to be broken. The reason because I think I did this in the real world too, like the first time I played through without spoilers and knowing what would happen. I definitely left a save file so I could try both. But I went for deal as what I consider for me my canon ending because Roman really wants you to do it, and Niko has been trying to break out of this cycle of just revenge murder. So if he goes and gets revenge on the Russians for what they, for what Dmitri specifically did to him, he's basically falling back into his old bad habits that he's trying to get out of. And he's betraying Roman outright because Roman just begged him to do this. He's not betraying Roman directly. It's not that Roman is going to come to any harm because he did this, but Roman has asked him, hey, do this deal. It'll give us a ton of money. We'll be set. We'll be completely set. And honestly, as far as like getting out of a life of crime, this would be, and this is a lot of crime dramas are based around the idea of a criminal who really is a good person underneath it all has got to do one last big heist so they can finally get out of the game and go legit. That's a huge storytelling cliche because we love stories about criminals, but we also kind of want to have characters we can root for. So to me, it was like deal is what Niko should be doing. Without foreknowledge of what could go right or could go wrong with either of these choices, going into it, his thought process to me should be, okay, I'll forgive and forget with the Russians. I'll do this deal. We'll make a lot of money, even though right now we've got all the money we need, but I don't know if we're supposed to have all the money we need. We have all the money we need because there's nothing to do with money in this game except buy ammo. But as far as like, hey, I'll I'll go to work with Roman. We'll expand the business. It's implied that if they do this, they're just going to be set. They can live this American dream they've talked about. And also it shows he's able to forgive and not just perpetuate a cycle of violence. So to me, deal is the canon thing that we should be doing. So now that I've like talked for this whole video, let's head for the revenge mission. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do revenge first. We're going to do revenge first and then come back to this save and do deal after we've seen what the ending is if you choose revenge. Because to me, the deal end will be the actual canon one for us. So revenge, we're doing our non-canon ending first so we can then show what I consider for me to be the real ending of the game. It's clearly written so that both of them are legit endings. It's not like bad end, the evil villain who has been trying to revive the goddess in Breath of Fire 1 asks you to work with him, and then you say yes, and you get an ending where he's like, ha ha ha, you fool, you fell into my trap, and you're defeated, and the game ends. It's not like the Breath of Fire 2. Well, there's an ending where... Well, Breath of Fire 2 actually is a good example. Breath of Fire 2 has a default ending where there's a certain fight, and you may not realize what's going on, but if you fight it a certain way, you win the fight, but you don't win it in an ideal circumstance, and when you get to the end of the game, your mother, who is a dragon, has to make this sacrifice to, seal up the evil and prevent it from coming back out, and it's kind of bittersweet. Whereas if you do a different approach to this one boss fight, your dad is still around at the end of the game, and he crashes this like weird flying fortress thing into the... It changes the end of the game, and both endings are... But one of them is clearly the better ending. This game, both of these endings equally are what they are. Neither one of them is written to be like, oh, this is clearly what you should have chosen. Because, one ending involves like everyone you care about dies horribly, and then the other ending is like everything's, coming up Prifia. That's not how it is. Yeah, but we'll do what I consider the canon ending first. I've done nothing but talk in this video, but there was one other thing I wanted to mention before I start going down the road of this mission. The thing I forgot to mention way early in the video, I was like, hey, there's a character point about Niko. And this is something that it was brought to my attention by a YouTube video about the series that I just hadn't picked up on. There are lots of little scenes throughout the game where Niko sees somebody who is either drinking or doing drugs. And he usually doesn't say anything, but there's lots of scenes of him just kind of looking sort of mildly disgusted or just disapproving. Happens several times in the game with alcohol. There's a scene with like Jerry McCreary pouring himself whiskey, and Niko refuses a beer, and then Jerry starts drinking whiskey, and Niko's just kind of like, ugh. Happens a lot. And we have him getting drunk in the dates, but that's just kind of me having fun with it. Like, the story scenes don't show Niko doing that. But after the Darko thing, whether you kill Darko or not, the first thing he does in the story, because the next story mandatory cinematic after Darko is the one we had it with Jimmy, he goes someplace and orders a drink. It's the first time he ever orders a drink, and he goes someplace by himself and orders a drink because of all this shit with Darko. So he's at a low ebb. And now he's being asked to make a decision, which is going to influence... It's going to basically set the end of the game. And as I said, this is not going to be one where there's a good end and what's clearly a better end or a bad end. GTA 5 tries to give you 3 alternate endings, but it's so crap. It's nobody... There's a best end. It's no harder to get than the other two, and nobody wants either of the other two endings. Like, ending A and B are both like bad, and ending C is like very clearly the best ending. But in this game, you may not really know for sure that this is the big decision point, and it's hard to figure out where things are going to go. So let me shut up and actually get going on what I consider, for me personally, the non-canon revenge ending, and we'll start on that next time. Bye-bye.